we're going to talk about how and why they became partners, but maybe we should start with you, Eben. Tell us just a little bit about you, how you came to start Ecovative. I know you grew up on a maple syrup farm in Vermont, and there's a connection there to the mushroom business.
Sure. So yeah, I do have a sustainable background. I grew up on a small subsistence farm in Vermont. But for what we created Ecovative was a sustainable alternative to conventional polymers like styrofoam, or polystyrene or polyethylene. And I did that coming out of college at Rensselaer, was looking at how could you create something that was not a pollutant, but actually a nutrient, which is a theme you may have heard in the building space and elsewhere. We created this originally as a building material, which we're going back to, but found out that disposable plastics are really used a lot in packaging. And so in 2009, we actually launched our first packaging product, EcoCradle. So it's the original nomiker. Went back and told my team we were a packaging company, and we started to make packaging.
And so how does it work? What's the mushroom connection?
So mushrooms are pretty incredible because they have this tremendous filamentous root structure called mycelium. And mycelium is this tiny cellular extrusion, way smaller than a human hair. Now, mostly biologists look at that and they think of it as root structure of mushroom. But mycelium, if you put on your chemistry hat, is actually a polymer. It's a chitinous polymer. It's found in nature. It's got some really interesting physical properties. And mycelium is essentially a self-assembling polymer. So we're able to
by the way,
feed it
for
crop
people
waste.
who have forgotten high school chemistry, what's a polymer?
Polymer is just a chain of molecules like a plastic.
Okay.
So it's a natural plastic that eats ag waste and can be molded into shapes.
And so once you realized you can make stuff out of mushrooms, what was talk a little about the evolution then of the company and how you got into this idea of packaging.
Yeah, well, there's always a challenge with technology push, right? What can you do? And you need to find need. And we saw this need around the disposable plastics and packaging, the ability to make shapes that cushion and protect, and also what we were hearing from customers, potential customers at that time. And so we launched, originally with steel case, a corner block, similar to this, to replace the polyethylene corner blocks they were using. Same price for them, same performance, but when their customers get it, they could compost it. And that was the start.
And again, just explain how that's made, and then I want to ask you about the environmental advantages of it. How does a mushroom make that?
Well, it's sort of like a giant indoor farm. So we really grow these indoors in the dark. We have a mold. We put in our crop waste. This is crop waste, not food for humans or animals. And then the magic is you add basically a single cell of mycelium to this mixture. And over the next 48 or 72 hours, the mycelium travels throughout the mold, basically turns this white and glues it all together. It's kind of like almost like concrete setting.
So you can make that amount of packaging in just 48 hours?
Yeah, 48 to 96 hours for the process.
So you were a science student at RPI. You didn't have a business background. You then came along and figured out I can make a plastic substitute out of mushroom roots. I guess the mycelium is the roots. How then did you turn that into a business, or how did you think you were going to turn it into a business?
Well, the best way I think to get good at something is to screw up a lot. So I did that a lot in starting Ecovative. And we did the lean startup methodology. So we started selling this product when we really didn't know how to make it. We didn't know how to design packaging very well. We went from making 5 or 6 of these in the lab to our first order of thousands of corner blocks, which is a really hard, scary scaling step. Everyone, all hands on board, filling molds in our first prototype factory. And one of the key breaks for us though was teaming up with Sealed Air 2 or 3 years ago now. Because that helped us, you can do the 0 to 1 as a startup, right? Going from concept to that first delivery. But then how do you do that again and again, repeatedly with quality?
So you began making these at your factory, which is at a small town in New York, right?
Yeah.
Near Albany, Green Island, New York. So then describe the process, and we'll get to you in a moment, Tim, because you haven't shown up in the chronology here yet, but you will. Describe the process of then saying, maybe I can't or shouldn't do this on my own.
Well, it's an interesting dichotomy, because the more success we had, the more we realized it would make sense to have a partner. And that is all around, when you build a business, or you all are in businesses, where are you going to have excellence? I'm sure you've heard this theme either internally or from consultants. And when you're forming a new manufacturing operation, pioneering a new form of material science, you really have to get serious about that. You can't be excellent at everything. And if you just look at packaging design, how you design a packaging really well, there's companies with lots of experience around that. How do you sell? How do you service a customer? How do you do the logistics? And we realize that we're the only people in the world that do mushrooms or mycelium as a company. So I get to say we're the world's greatest at it. And we want to stay the world's greatest at that, right? And so how do we tap into partners that can give us, bring their expertise to their discipline?
And did you go out and find Sealed Air, or did they find you?
It was serendipitous. So we exhibited at packaging trade shows. We've seen them on the road, and I actually at a conference ran into the president of the protective packaging division in a hallway, and got this in his face and said, "Look at this. Are you interested?" And surprisingly, he said, "Yeah." And this individual, Ryan Flanagan, who runs a couple $1 billion division, came up to Ecovative, took a look, and that sort of started a process.
So Tim, before you formed this partnership, and we want to talk about what the partnership is, because they take lots of different forms, but before you did Sealed Air have a product that filled the need that this mushroom packaging product, now called Restore, fills?
A lot of our products have crossovers with our customers, and so what's the right product for them is going to be specific to their application. But what's interesting about this product is, we take a position as the market leaders, and so we've traditionally developed our products internally, but we're not opposed to getting them externally as well. So, this is a leadership product in its sustainability story, but also for us, what's even more intriguing about it is it gets us in a new market space. So it allows us to expand our business.
So what's from Sealed Air's point of view, what is that product most likely to be used for? When are folks in this room going to open a package and find some of the, again, it's called Restore product inside?
Sure. Yeah. I think a lot of consumer electronics, appliances, any fragile product that has value and requires some level of protection throughout the shipping environment is ideal, but it has natural anti-static abilities and flame retardancy, so it really makes a great fit for consumer electronics and white goods.
Were you in the business of wrapping up, say, tablets and laptops and phones before making this arrangement, or not?
Yeah, we do some, a lot of it in the refurb market, where there might be a greater need for versatility, whereas this product being custom design, custom shape, allows us to go into some of the more larger scale OEM operations now.
Do you make the peanuts or just the plastic bubble wrap, or both?
Recently, we've brought a product to market that has a renewable content and compostable material to replace traditional plastic peanuts. Up until then, we hadn't been in that market space, and now we feel that we have a differentiated product that, again, with the renewable and compostable material, will add value, of course, with no added cost for our customers.
Okay. So, Evan, what did you see as both the opportunities and the risks of forming this partnership, and maybe to the degree that you can describe the partnership? I don't believe there's an investment involved, correct?
No, it's a license agreement, though we operate really as a JV. So Tim's up at Ecovative, hanging with the dogs at Ecovative all the time. I get down to Danbury, and we've built a facility together. The risk is really, when you look at from a small company partnering with a big company, the risk is really, I think, almost motivational. So the one thing a startup can do better than a big company is be fast, nimble, and motivated, right? I guess that's three things, but. So that's the risk, right? You doing this partnership, no matter how you structure a contract, a big company can say they're going to do it and do a cruddy job. Right. And that was the risk with, I think, Sealed Air. We did everything we could in our license to mitigate that. And the truth, you have to shake hands and try it out. And we've been super fortunate that hasn't been the case. From the top down, they've been a really motivated partner. And more importantly, I'm happy to be on stage with Tim here today, because it's the people that actually get stuff done, and you have someone on the ground here who really is motivated about the product, and that's the key. But I came back, did all hands presentation for my team and said, all right, we're going to scale. We've got this great partner. Now we're going to have 100 sales reps instead of one, me. They're going to help us build a big facility instead of what we've been doing out at back. And, I had people are like, we're partnering with a plastics company? Yeah. Right? What are you doing, Evan?
And what did you say?
Well, I explained all the rationales, and then I sort of said, I hope, I didn't say that to the team, but I said, well, hope it works out,
And Tim, you made, I assume Sealed Air made a significant investment. You built a facility in Iowa. Is it dedicated to the mushroom product only?
It is.
So if the product doesn't sell, that becomes a problem. What were the other risks?
Jeez, Mark, you're being a downer. Come on.
Fortunately, that's not a problem for us. But
well, you're just starting to sell the product.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Great. I mean, the market loves it. I think.
Who are your customers, by the way, for something like this? Are you selling it to the branded electronics companies, or are there intermediaries involved?
Both. We have a pretty complicated distribution network, but end users that you've all heard of, right? Some in this room, even. I think some of the risks and challenges.
Can you name some of the customers?
Yeah. What do we got? Dell, Steelcase would be ones that are.
President sponsors,
Yeah, and certainly market. I mean, one of the value-added opportunities with this product is customers can actually market it and tell their story. I mean, it's great to do good. It's such a great environmental material. Not taking credit for doing that good is a missed opportunity.
And so Dell, Steelcase,
many others.
Many others,
yeah.
So sales are growing. Are they growing much faster, Eben, than they would have if you tried to do it on your own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you're obviously also giving up some of the upside in terms of the earnings, the branding, et cetera, correct?
That is the heart of a partnership like this, is that you divide up a pie. And Sealed Air gets a bigger part of the pie, which we're happy with. And the idea is you make the pie much bigger and hopefully much better, tastier for your customer.
Okay. Two other quick questions, and then Elaine, we'll see if anything has come in online or from folks in the room. Cost. How does this compare to the traditional petroleum-based hard packaging? And second, that's for you, Tim, and for you, Eben, how clear-cut are the environmental benefits?
So the beauty of this, right, is all three critical elements have to be the environmental story, right, performance, and this actually works, so we're happy about that. And then the economics. If the economics don't work, it, in a business sense, will not be sustainable. There's been endeavors at Sealed Air, even, where we look at some alternative materials, and they've got the great environmental story, but they don't work as well, and they're never going to hit a cost curve that makes it viable. And so we'll get out of those. And what we love about this product is it meets all those elements.
And is it, at current oil prices, is it the same, cheaper, or more expensive than the alternative?
Typically, we're at parity.
About the same.
Yeah.
Eben, the environmental story, how confident are you that it's real?
I feel really good about it. I have, as you might guess, my team is extremely mission motivated and keeps us very honest. And we look at that story in a couple pieces. One is, all right, what are you using for feedstocks? So we start with waste materials. We think that's really important. We're not using sugars, which is how we're making ethanol, how we're making a lot of these specialty polymers now with bio. And that's important because you look up the stream at crops, we have some issues around how we grow food, especially high-value food in this country. Then our transformation process.
So what are the waste products?
So we use corn stover predominantly. We're in Iowa, very plentiful. You can collect it from the field. You can collect a lot and still leave a lot to be turned back into the soil. But we are open loop. So we've used everything from lobster shells to pine shavings, any kind of lignocellulosic waste.
Those mushrooms will eat just about anything, huh?
They are voracious. And then the process, we use a lot less energy. We don't use, people say, oh, it's zero energy. It's not zero energy. We have ovens, we have pasteurizers, we have lights. We built like cyborgs to help the biology go. But we still use way less energy per unit than styrofoam, in an embodied energy sense.
And then end of life?
And end of life is where it gets interesting because there's really a philosophical component to end of life. you have two cycles, right? You've got technical nutrients, you've got biological nutrients, and I'm a big proponent for disaggregated materials like packaging, right? They go to lots of little places. Everyone has a house, right? It's hard to collect them. A lot of information goes into that. You can recycle there, and you should for many things, but nature's recycling system basically is outside everyone's back door. So we've designed a product that is home compostable, which we think is an incredible benefit. And at the heart of that, what that means is if this stuff lands on a beach somewhere, it turns into nutrition for the beach. I'm sure you've all now walked on beaches with little plastic beads in the sand. You know, those aren't going away. They may get smaller. So that's the heart of this is, in the end, it's biocompatible even if it can't be recyclable. And we view that as probably actually the biggest benefit in this particular industry, because stuff falls off of trucks.
Right. So if I throw this in a compost pile in my backyard, how long would it take to biodegrade roughly?
Well, if you just take this as its physical form, it's almost as durable as a softwood like pine. So you could actually build stuff outside out of this, and it would last quite a while. But if you shred it up, expose the surface area, break open the mycelial particles in a compost, it'll break down in 30 days.
Fascinating.
Yeah. With the right mix of green and brown. And, you know.
Elaine,
Yeah, we have a lot of questions.
and a little time.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So really a lot of these questions are around the barriers. So for example, if, so one person works for a major consumer electronics company and she's asking, why hasn't my packaging team made the switch? How did they get started? And what is the major barrier, or what are the barriers that you're actually seeing to adoption?
We like
Tim,
that
I
question.
think, Tim, that's for you.
Yeah, so
Get those salespeople
they
going.
can call me first. Barriers would be scale. And so, you know, as we mentioned, our first plant is up and running. We expect to have many plants in many locations throughout North America and then Europe. So, you know, depending on the need and the requirement, and we're not at capacity yet, but I mean, we can only sell as much as we can make.
So you're selling everything you're making now?
No, not yet,
Oh.
but I'm saying that's the thing that would hold us back from replacing every bit of foam that we can is that scale, and so there's just a time curve to get there.
Elaine?
Yeah, there are some other questions like, is the lumpy appearance of mushroom packaging an issue?
Eben, is the lumpy appearance, this doesn't look that lumpy to me, but go ahead, is that an issue?
Well, I'll answer it. I think that maybe Tim can probably add more or less biased commentary. You know, I think this is a natural material and it looks beautiful. But my team keeps telling me to stop saying that. And we've actually, if you potentially one of the consumer electronics packaging teams may have contacted us 3 years ago, and we probably sent you something that was really ugly, and I'm sorry. Because that's the MVP approach. We send you whatever was hot in the lab that week. And with the feedback, we've refined this into something, and this came out of Tim's plant.
Right.
You know, this isn't from Ecovator, this is from their plan, and I think it looks even better than what we were making. So we've refined it. I think it does look like a natural material, but the earlier samples, you could see the ag waste like sticking out of it, which I liked. But some people don't. And I mean, what's your reaction, Ben, with folks? You've seen a lot more customers now than I have.
Yeah, and we've, you know, our position as the voice of the customer and Eben's company as our development partner has been very much focused on not having it be lumpy, not having it be, you know, it is a natural material. It's always going to look that way, but to have it be consistent and reach a level of aesthetics that, you know, end-use consumers will actually think of it in a positive, have a positive experience with the material.
Okay. We're out of time, but Eben, I just want to ask you real quick, what other markets are out there besides packaging for the mushroom product?
Well, we are going back to building materials. So we actually went to Greenbuild this year and kind of relaunched that as a material. And for those of you visiting New York this summer, MoMA has a big exhibition space, and an architect's designed a 40-foot tall structure utilizing bricks made from this material. We're also doing some stuff with surfboards, continuing to work in the auto industry. So we view this as another material science platform for companies to access, just like polyethylene is a material science platform.
Great. Thanks, Eben. Thank you, Tim. Please join me in thanking Eben and Tim.
Thank you.